Open your mind.
Good evening and welcome to Open Your Mind Internet Radio. You have myself, Alan James.
And you have myself, Stephen George. A very good evening.
Good evening. It's Sunday the 21st of October 2012 and we have a packed show tonight. Loads of things that's going on. And we have our guest. It's going to be a pre-record tonight. We talked to Drake on Friday, so it's literally just hot off the recorder, so you could speak, so you could say, and ready to go. So just a few things that we're going to go through first. And over to you, Steve, for communications.
Communication channels are as follow. Info at OYMIreland.com for your email. We also have the guest book on the website as well, where you can leave a message for all and sundry. And we also have the chat facility on the website as well. Several people already logged in, so I'll say a very good evening to you all. And if you want to join in the chat on the chat box, it's OYMIreland.com/OYM chat. And that should bring you there. Phone lines will not be available this evening, unfortunately. However, we do have a little ditty to play for you.
You predicted what the dot-com bubble before it happened, the real estate bubble and the crash before it happened.
He predicted the stock market crash of 1987.
One World Chronicle and Celtic Gold are proud to present the #1 trends forecaster, Gerald Celente. November the 6th, Dublin, the Gibson Hotel. For further information and tickets, go to oneworldchronicle.com or celticgold.eu.
And that promises to be a very good evening there with Gerald Celente. So yeah, one to look forward to and get along to if you can.
Excellent. And just another note for regarding the One World Chronicle and the Sovereign Independent. Both papers, the One World Chronicle have the first issue coming out, and Sovereign Independent have issue number 6 out just before the referendum, and they're both looking for distributors in counties. So if you can please go to the oneworldchronicle.com website or sovereignindependent.ie and send an email to the editor or contact on the website there if you're interested in being a distributor for the magazine. We need to get this information out, guys. We need to wake people up to what's going on. So if you can spare a few minutes of your time and ring them up, become a distributor and get the information out there. And there's obviously a bonus as well. You can make a few quid out of this yourself. Obviously, some of the funds go back to the newspaper, but you can put your profit margin on it as well and make a few quid. So there's something in there for you as well.
It'd be nice if we could get the people to get some of the papers and distribute them before this upcoming referendum, because there is a lot of good information in the paper in relation to this new referendum that's going to be hitting us next month. So, we need to get that information out there to everyone, actually.
Exactly, yeah. Now, during the week, obviously, for some people, you probably realised that Tuesday last week, there was an eviction in Dundalk, and it was live on TNS. Fantastic radio, I have to say, the guys TNS Vin. And Ben Gilroy was on the ground doing his bit, which is brilliant. Now, obviously, like all of us, we have a lack of funds, and we rely on people to donate to the station to keep us up and running on certain things. And TNS is no exception. And I know they were short on funds on Tuesday, and we were more than happy to send over a little donation to Vin, so we could keep the Skype channel up and running and the phone calls to Ben, so we can keep on live radio what was happening there. So well done to Vin and Ben Gilroy and everybody else, Johnny and all, who were involved over there. It was well done, brilliant radio, really, really good stuff. And again, it's just part of, we all support each other. That's what it's really all about, helping each other and getting the information out there. And
the likes of, say, Ben and Co, they are the new media. I mean, when you think about it, when you look at the video of that eviction, Ben was there, and Johnny was there. Nice to see him recovering. And they were there reporting on what was going on, but there wasn't any reporters from any of the national or even the local TV or radio stations, none whatsoever.
Exactly, and I would even add to that, we are all the new media. Well, not. I think we have to drop this alternative media title. We are the new media. This is the new media. This is what we do. We get the truth out there. It's raw, and it's the information going out to the listeners, and that's what you're going to get. And then you make the decision as to what you feel, whether it resonates with you or not. And that's what the media should be doing at the moment, but they're not. So that's what we're doing, and that's why we have a platform and we get the information out there. So, as we have a kind of packed show and we have to watch the timing on a few things, we're going to go through a few things quite quickly and then we'll head straight over to the interview with Drake. So, Steve, how was your week?
Terrible, thanks.
Good. Okay, next.
How was your week?
Not too bad.
No, my week was the usual, kind of just catching up with things in between, working and playing daddy and playing husband as well. So I was actually catching up on a video, one of the ones you sent out there today. I think it was in relation to dealing with the police. It was an American video, one from the Alex Jones channel. It wasn't actually Alex Jones presenting, but he was interviewing a guest who gave sterling golden nuggets of information of what to say and what not to say, and how not to walk into in a situation, and how to just kind of keep your wits about you when dealing with members of the police in the US. And obviously the same would apply over here when dealing with members of An Garda Síochána. I've just seen a question there, which I suppose we can touch on as well, from Lord Vapor. How's the MMS going? Well, I'm still taking the MMS, and I have a cold at the moment. Well, I've had it for a while, and a bit of a chesty chest, getting up a little bit of phlegm. Now, I am still taking the MMS. It's not really doing anything in relation to the cold, so what more can I say? But I'm still taking it anyway. I'm actually waiting for the day when I'll have my eureka moment and I'll wake up and, I don't know, I'll just feel better or something. Yeah. But you're still taking yours, aren't you?
I'm still taking the MMS, and I feel okay actually. I feel pretty good, not too bad.
Well, it must be working, because I mean we've hooked up a couple of times as well. I was here Friday, and we were here, I think I still had this cold on me last Sunday as well. And you haven't contracted it yet, so.
No,
that's good.
No. Well, I'm not kissing you, so you can forget about that.
Please.
No tongues. Okay. So what we're going to do? So that was your week, yeah?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I'm just conscious of the time and what we have. Okay, just very quickly. After we have the Drake interview, by the way, we have a message. I was on to David Icke's people, and they sent us over an audio of David Icke. David Icke is going to be doing a gig in Wembley Arena, I believe, and David sent us over a message that he wants people to hear. So at the end of the Drake interview, we'll be playing that as well before the end of the show, and it's quite interesting what David has to say. So listen up for that as well. But just a quickie during the week. A friend of my partner's actually was complaining that she had a foot fungus, which is very common. And for people who have had this, you will know that you will, when you go to the doctor, they will give you tablets, and you have to take one tablet for every day for 6 months, and it's not really the best solution. So obviously my partner was aware of what we talk about on the radio show, and she recommended that this lady puts her foot in bicarbonate of soda and soak it, every night for a period of time. So she's been doing this for 2 weeks, and she said that the changes after doing that just for 2 weeks is phenomenal. That it's going. She said you can see the difference straight away. And obviously bicarbonate soda, as you know, is alkaline, and fungus is acid, and it attacks the fungus. It's that simple. There's no more science to it than just that. So it's very, very interesting though. So she's getting on really well. Now when she went to Boots, the chemist, to actually look at the treatment that they antifungal cream and stuff like that, they wanted €30.
Ouch!
€30.
Wow.
And then she said, soda, I'm going to use the bicarbonate soda, and there you go. 2 weeks later, she's raving about it. So, and
we actually heard before as well that even the MMS is quite good for fungal infections. That will also work as well as the sodium bicarbonate.
Yeah, of course, yeah. You can use it for external, especially if you have psoriasis. Vin from TNS did a video, it's on YouTube, of a guy who had psoriasis, and he treated one arm and left the other arm alone. And within 3 to 4 days, the big difference after treating with MMS. So check it out later on. Go to YouTube and check it out and see what you think. But that's just a few bits and pieces that we're going to talk about. We're going to get on to the interview. Now, this is an interview that we did this Friday just gone with Drake. Unfortunately, he couldn't come on live because he had another radio show to do. So we got him on Friday. We did a pre-record. And very interesting information. Gives us a background on a good few things. and obviously what might be coming down the line as well. So listen to the interview, and we will see you at the. Oh, okay, hang on. We'll see you at the tail end, but I'm going to pass you over to Steve for a minute.
Yeah, just want to say that, I mean, we did cover a lot of subjects with Drake on Friday, but as usual, it was after the interview, we kind of said, should have asked him this, should have asked him that. But we did say to him off air, you won't hear it on the interview, we did ask him, would he be interested in maybe coming on again and doing a part 2 as a follow-up, and he did say he would. When that's going to happen, we don't know at this moment in time.
Okay, so, well, for part 1 just now, kick back and have a listen, and we'll catch you on the far side. Okay, we'd just like to introduce Drake to the show. Good evening, Drake. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Yourself, sir?
Good stuff. Doing fine. Drake, thanks for coming on to the show. It's much appreciated. I know you have an awful lot of information about what's going on, and you're very busy at the moment. And our listeners over here in Ireland and in Europe obviously will be very keen to find out what the update is and what's going on. Especially if it affects Ireland and if it affects Europe and what's going on there. I don't know whether you know much, but we'll talk about it anyway. And the one thing we want to obviously clarify with listeners as well, and I know that you've been affected by this to a certain extent, where people are always pushing you for dates, and it's you can't really give a date. It's a timeline or window of opportunity, and because if you stick to a date or you give a date and it doesn't happen, people start going, it didn't happen, so he doesn't know what's going on. So I think we talked about this before off air the last time I spoke to you. So I'm aware, and Steve's aware, that we're talking timelines and windows of opportunity. So what you might say tonight on the show, it might change in 2 or 3 days, and it might, be pushed back because the cabal might find that that's not going to work. The conscious level of the planet has gone up. People are aware of things, so they move it back or move it forward, whatever. Is that fair enough to say?
Yeah, that's pretty close, actually. Primarily, it's like any plan. Somebody plans to accomplish a certain goal. They go about getting from point A to point B, and in between that, the possibility of interruption, distraction, etc., can change things. If it is the type of plan that we deal with, the problem is that the entities that don't want that done will throw any kind of resistance or problems they can find in the way. And so say I gave a date of Monday as an example. It might be Friday, depending on what types of resistance they're capable of putting up to whatever it is we're trying to do. And it doesn't matter, from what I have been able to discern, there's no effect as to who is trying to accomplish the goal, their level, stature, or whatever, and it doesn't matter as to how many people are involved. Even something that would involve an extraordinary number of people can be altered, changed, or delayed, or screwed with in such a fashion that it causes delays. So I don't give out dates. Okay, well
that's fair enough to say that. Steve?
Yeah, Drake, for many of the listeners who may not be familiar with you or your work, I know a lot of people in Ireland and all across Europe and all across the globe are very familiar with you, and I know I am. I've seen a lot of your work on the internet, on YouTube. But for anyone who might be tuning in tonight who may not be aware of your background and how you came to this level of consciousness, could you just give us maybe a brief synopsis of how like your waking up process of or maybe when you realised that the world wasn't as it was portrayed?
That started when I was a child, actually. My mother and my stepfather, well, my father's, he's a college graduate as well. So the educational level in the household was such that if you had a question, you went and asked somebody, that sort of thing. The other part of it was the philosophical awareness of how to conduct yourself in such a manner that you did not cause problems for other people unnecessarily. So from that standpoint and understanding how things would work that way, plus, and this is the other factor, I was somewhat of a bookworm, so I learned how to read the hard way early on. That involved a weekly reader book club thing that is, I guess, still going on in schools today. I don't know. Where you had a simple book to read and went from there. This improves vocabulary, etc., speed of reading and comprehension and all this. But my mother wanted me to understand the ideologies behind Eastern philosophy, as well as the philosophies of religious structure that were prevalent here in the States. To go along with that, some of the history that she presented me with, such as some of the history of foreign countries, how these different countries foreign to me were having an impact, or had at one point or one time or another had a great impact on America specifically, what kind of impact we also have had on others, and all this sort of thing. So learning to read Zen Buddhism, for instance, that was my third book that was above my reading level. And I got introduced to a little complimentary thing called Webster's. My mother taught me how to use it and said, you go learn. So the learning process started that way when I was young. The position I got into as it is now came about through a couple of different manners. I started being an activist around, sometime about 2-3 years before 9/11. I started getting interested getting on the internet, finding out how computers function and which buttons not to push, that sort of thing. But the educational basis of it was when something seemed to be morally improper, be that an attitude, be that actions, whatever, I had always been taught to question it and question the individual that was doing it. And so doing that on the internet leads to letters to the editor of newspapers, getting involved in community affairs, this sort of thing. And I bumped along at that for a while. My wife and I came to move to where we're at now, and I got involved I don't really consider things coincident or accidental or fate, predestination. I don't consider things of that nature. My take on that particular part of things is you get a door open to you and you have the opportunity, if you so wish to, get involved in whatever is beyond that door. So I was up here in the mountains and came across a doorway to debt relief. Everybody is very familiar with that. And some of the debt collectors and other people involved were basically doing illegal things. So I got involved with What's in Your Debt, which is a regular show on the internet. And eventually gained the trust of one of the principals in that. That person then got a contact from two different people at high level in our government and finance, and they wanted to know if we would be interested in setting our country free. And of course, that's an absolute yes. Anybody would like to have what we would consider freedom. And so that progressed for a while. There was, I guess, quite a bit of discussion between those two. And then it got down to one person, which was easier in terms of contact between the person I knew and this unknown person. They put us on a course of questioning how to set our country free. So we went about finding out the legalities, paperwork necessary. We put together a package of basic founding documents for the country, and had divorcement or separational papers and paperwork involved in those packages. Each package came from each individual state. We initially sent in some, I think there were 25 or 30 packages, along with some Indian nations who also desired the same freedoms. And we sent that into the civilian division of the International Court of The Hague as a notification project. It did get the handle or identification of the nation-states project. That project had been a request by high-level security and military based on the plan, and if somebody wants to know about the plan, I would refer to David Wilcock's site. The interviews listed there and the plans discussed pretty reasonably. This plan was started back in the days of the Korean War by senior military when they realized that the United Nations was basically stabbing them in the back by letting the enemy know positions, troop strengths, movements, things of this nature, putting us at a great disadvantage. They didn't like that. The first take was to have a military coup, go in with guns blazing and clean out the problem. And a lot of people said, no, we probably shouldn't do that. So they started talking about it. They formulated the plan. From the plan came what happened in terms of the question as to whether or not we could come up with the formulated paperwork to set our country free. The project, known as Nation States Project, as I say, and I'll say this very clearly, is notification. It's not a legally actionable filing of any kind. So as that started winding down, we were completing it and it was getting done, we were asked to stand down by the same people in the military who had asked us to do the project. And yet they also wanted us to go and try to make the idea of freedom viral on the Internet. And I asked them quite simply, I just got one little problem with this. How do you figure that you can shut up and still put stuff out and have people listen to you when you've got several million, this is freedom type websites all over the place? Just a website is not going to do it. They thought about that and they said, what do you got in mind? I said, well, how about we go on the radio with it? Oh my! I said, well, you asked. That's, an alternative. If you want something that's on there that's bland enough that doesn't out military secrets or secure documents, things of this nature, that can be done, and at the same time get the ideology of the capability of individuals anywhere on the planet to find what freedom is and exercise it. And so I started going on the radio, I believe it was in February, give or take, and have been kind of bumping along ever since. The thing has grown enormously, which is a good thing. The more people, the merrier. The more people who understand that freedom is capable to be found anywhere in any country, and that there are processes at work that will help those processes along. That word needs to get out to everybody, and that's basically how I arrived where I'm at.
Drake, just for clarification, when you say you went on radio, was this internet-based radio or was it mainstream radio?
Basically, mainstream don't want to hear that, so it was internet radio.
I think that's going to be the case in the majority of cases until the media start waking up and you get you get on proper radio stations to broadcast the information. But the information's getting out there. Now, the first time that I came across yourself was the interview that you did with David Wilcock. And David went off and you wanted to verify who you were before, obviously before the information came out, because there's so much disinformation out there. And David came back and he said, yeah, I've had it verified that Drake is genuine, and the people that he knows, I think David knew as well or something. Do you want to tell us, at that particular time, that's when you came out, and what was that all about? Obviously you wanted to talk to David about things that were going on.
Well, basically, what I wanted to do was, as I've stated, get as many people aware. See, the thing people don't understand is this, and it's very basic. If someone is aware of something, the startle factor of that particular incident happening, either close to them or down the road a little bit, is not so great. Meaning that they can actually think about what they're doing. And what kind of action they want to take, if any. The this is at least the awareness level I would like to give to as many people as possible everywhere. The other part of it is that you have to have organizational capabilities where people can assign things to be done. Hey, we need to do this. Can you help? And you go from there. The third level is paramilitary, known as militias. Militias can be just about anything. True militia is made up of people within a specific neighborhood, group, area, local kind of thing. And the militia can be either armed or not, but primarily is designed to be able to garner the help of a whole bunch of sets of hands, if need be, according to an incident, or simply take care of things. Grandma might need a porch or whatever. There's a lot of ways that can go. But the crux of it is that in order to reach as many people as possible, it was recommended to David, and I'm not going to say who recommended me, that he might want to interview me because of some of the things I'd stated on other programs. People are extraordinarily thirsty and hungry for freedom. Information that goes with it, basically the things that it involves. The first interview that David and I did was basically the coming out party in terms of people becoming aware. A lot of people took exception to what I stated, and later have come back and stated, "Well, I did some checking with some people, and what you said is real. I didn't know that. I didn't believe that was, So the validation process is a combination of things. David vetted me with people that he knew. Or I wouldn't have been able to talk to him without a certain amount of recommendation first. Secondly, he vetted me in a manner that is not something that you can get around, and we went from there. We spent probably, I'd say, 4 hours on the phone the first time, and then we did the interview a day or so later. And that interview is all right in a lot of ways. It, as I said again, is introductory. Now, I have a website called AmericanNationalMilitia.com, and it has archives of all the shows I've done, as many as we could get a hold of. There is a lead-up, and there is an interrelation between each of the shows to some extent that brings people to a greater knowledge as to what is going on and how it will play out. So that is the idea. Now, that's not just limited to the United States. That's something I need to make perfectly clear. Australia, Russia, several countries in Europe, not excluding Ireland. There are a great number of people in areas where freedom has not come to the forefront yet, such as England. Although people have made some noise, now they're getting organized. They're listening to what I've got to say. They're applying it, and it's beginning to work. And I'm going, wow, all I want to do is set my country free, and here we go. The whole world's catching on fire. Whoopee.
Well, hopefully it's going to be the domino effect, because Ireland is no different. The problem is with Ireland is that we're heavily fluoridated over here, which means that obviously there's a lot of apathy. Now, the likes of Greece and Spain and Portugal, the people are coming out and they're marching and demonstrations now. Myself and Steve probably have our own opinions basically whether marching works, because we did this in Ireland and the politicians just kind of went, oh yeah, okay, whatever. And then people just, after 15 minutes of saying, down with the cuts and no more of this, everybody just dispersed and went home, and that was the end of it. So I'm not a big fan of marching. I think we have to approach it in a different way. But what I'd like to do is I'd like to kind of fast forward up to present day, because this is what people really want to know about, and about what's going on. Now, there's a couple of questions I have, but Steve, I'll go over to Steve first. Steve has a question that he wants to talk to you about.
Yeah, Drake, just very quickly, you mentioned there a few moments ago about Russia. You touched on Russia. And we've been hearing over here in Ireland that there are currently Russian troops and Chinese troops in the US. Now, there's we're kind of hearing it on the wire, so to speak. We're not actually hearing much about it on mainstream. And I'm just wondering, like, would you have any information or even a presumption or an idea as to what they're doing over there? Are they getting ready for something, or are they just visiting?
Well, they were supposed to be here to assist the American people in garnering our freedom and working directly with our military to ensure that. People do not understand that things have changed in a lot of ways. China and Russia are not as animostic to other countries and more, I would consider them more allies than not. The troops, the great amount of troops and material that were present, and I'm not going to say it right here on the soil because that's not to get altogether the truth, but that were present in the area. Primarily, it has been made in terms of a decision by people who are going to be in charge of this effort that we can handle it. So they told them that, go ahead and go back home or do whatever you got to do someplace else. We do not require your assistance. And basically, most of the troops outside the United States that were massed have primarily gone back home, basically. So that's not even a factor. Now, one of the problems with the idea of freedom is that if you see some foreign troop, somebody that you can readily recognize as foreign, the citizenry is liable to think that they're invaders and start shooting at them, and that is definitely something you do not want. So that's another part of the reason for declining their help.
Okay, that's quite interesting. I'm just kind of, in my head, I was just thinking there, how does that work? How do you get Russian troops to come into America without the cabal knowing about it, or did they know about it?
Well, the cabal tried to destroy Russia on more than one occasion. They were successful in breaking up the coalition of satellite states of the Russian Federation at one point. Now, the problem is that the satellite states, when they decided to leave the protection of Mother Russia, found that the cabal is much worse. And that was what they were dealing with. And several of them have returned to what's called a protectorate agreement, at the very least, with Russia. So what's transpired is extraordinary in a lot of ways. If the right people ask somebody for help, they'll give it. American troops have been in Russia. American troops have been in China as an assistance. They left their guns on the boat or at the airport and went out, digging people out of rubble after an earthquake, or helping with flooding, or saving people with helicopter. You name it. This sort of thing has been common in a lot of times. You'll note in recent news, maybe not real recent, but Iranian gunboats or fishing boats get in trouble. We rescue the guys. Now, the boat might sink. That's not our problem. But, you say this is the honor of the sea. This is the honor between people. You rescue the people, you return them, they weren't doing anything wrong, but they sure screwed their boat up. See that dark spot right there? That sort of thing. When people understand that you can be humane, irrespective of whether someone might even be your enemy, then you understand the differential between what we've had before, where Russia and China are the bad guys, and the only good guys is the United States or Ireland or the UK or something like this. This ideology has been fostered primarily by the cabal. Without something that is your enemy, you don't need arms. Thus, you don't need the arms manufacturers, and you do not need to borrow the money from banks, who make money again, in order to defend yourself against such. Therefore, you have a great portion of what was termed by Eisenhower as the military-industrial complex suffering when there is no war. Peace is something they don't like because they don't make any money off of it. Pretty simple. And so when you get those ideologies, the basis of the understanding in simple language that anybody can understand, and you put it out on a show such as this one, people go, that makes sense. Well, it's real simple. Now let's boost this up. How about if somebody decided to represent a country as their commander-in-chief? I'm not easy to get along with in terms of some things. And there's some things that it would take me great amounts of restraint not to go off on certain people for things they have done, actions that have been taken that are treasonous, actions that have been taken that could put a military individual in front of a firing squad, the international actions of death squads, and this has been pretty common practice for quite a few years. So what we have to do, we got a mess, and what we have to do is two things. First is, and utmost attention needs to be given to the cabal. Each and every last portion of their actions are primarily something that's based within financial leverage, where you buy a politician through making the largest donation, as an example, where you own the bank and you say, well, we'll just close our bank up, take our marbles, and go home. Now, people think that's awful. They think that that's going to destroy everything. What has happened is that several entities all over the planet, these are your small financial institutions, have stayed away from the central banking system because they know they don't like it. They can smell Rothschild, Rockefeller on it, and it stinks. Now, the reason that it does is that these are two of the principles. Bush is another part of it. There's several out there who will do anything for profit, to include falsification of war, and we're trying to extract ourselves from that presently, whom are willing to follow the edicts of something called Agenda 21, and that's listed on the United Nations website, if anybody cares to look, where they intend to reduce the population of the planet by basically 2/3, 3/4, somewhere along in there. And they think that because they pay the military's paycheck, they'll go along with that. So one of the first things I did on one of the first shows was to address the military, lawful and unlawful orders. And it spread like wildfire. We covered several million people in a matter of hours. I was shocked. I didn't think it would go that far, but it did. So the military, all of a sudden, everybody became aware. It says you don't engage civilians. That includes foreign civilians. That doesn't just hit home here. That's in the field manual. That means you don't shoot at Mama San in Vietnam. You don't take somebody out because they're wearing Muslim garb in Iraq or Afghanistan. Target practice. How low do you want to go? That was done with the Indians here in this nation. Never should have happened. We've mistreated the indigenous original people of the Americas since forever. That's just one instance. People have had troops in protectorates or territories where you have a foreign entity who feels that they own, say, Ireland or something, and they will come in and try to enforce their will upon the people. That never works, and they know this. But they get to shoot some people, and that's what they're there for. I think it's a poor excuse, but there it is anyway. These things are part of what is considered a childish nature in the development of humankind. And by childish, kids fight in the schoolyard. Well, we ratchet it up and we take lives with real weapons. Yeah. There's not much difference in terms of the whole of it, but we're going to have to learn to forget about the differential in skin color, way somebody looks because their eyes are slanted or whatever, and get over the fact that somebody lives in a foreign country, and yet understand that every border and it doesn't matter which one, you can pick any of them, I guarantee you that for hundreds of years there's been trade across that border. Even where there are the greatest enemies, there's trade goes back and forth across that border. You got a farmer with beans and you got a guy with goat's milk. The guy with the beans needs some goat's milk for his kids. The guy with the goat's milk wants to butcher one of his goats and make stew, and he needs beans for it. And they get together and work it out. And if people could understand two things, they would rectify most of the situation. Number one is common law. And this is pervasive and should be throughout the globe. If a person has not harmed another person or destroyed property, then there is no crime, basically. This is very basic now. Common law is much more involved than that, but that's the basic. If they would realize the morality known as the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Okay, that means just because you're great big, don't mean you go patting the little guy on top of his head and make him mad. That is not cool. Now, unless you're real good friends and you don't mind, that's different. Because somebody's Muslim does not mean that Christians should go after them, and vice versa. This has been done in our history, if anybody wants to look, where the differential, and it's usually something obvious, and yet in Christian beliefs, you've got the same attitude that is supposedly being attributed to the Muslim faith now, where infidels are killed. Well, same thing that we did back in the Crusades. Not much different. If you can't convert them, you wipe them out. We need to get that out of there. And I'm not going to say that belief is wrong. I'm going to say that the manner in which we execute it doesn't seem to fit with what we're told about the good part. So we're going to have to rectify all this stuff.
Yeah.
Now, this is the other biggie. Well, what happens when we do that? And the question that always comes up first, New World Order. Yes, some things are going to be globally based. One of those is going to be the banking and financial system so that nobody has an advantage. That's first. And everything is totally transparent. Everything is above board. All the crooks get removed, and we can float them in the ocean or whatever we want to do with them. The second part of it is that you have a problem, and everybody has this problem. Some people are Irish and proud of it, and they should be. There is a heritage. There is history involved in that. I'm an American, and I'm proud of it. That don't mean the two should disagree. They should retain their sovereignty and yet be able to shake hands at the same time. So these are the ideologies that are going to have to come about so that mankind can grow up out of the childish ring around the rosy, play games in the schoolyard stuff and come to a point where we would be considered advanced enough to become a part of even greater societies than our planet. This is the requirement. So there you go. That's there's a lot of information there, and I mean I totally agree with you what you're saying. I mean, going back through your conversation there, you're obviously talking, and I've read about this about Pearl Harbor, where that was a war that was created because of the actual depression, 1929, and they knew that by making arms that would generate jobs for people to get the country back up and working again. And again with the Middle East, you had the Carlyle Group, who's one of the biggest defence contractors. So they make loads of money from the war, and then the contractors go in like Halliburton, and then they clean up and start making money, and obviously all linked to the cabal. So all that makes sense, and we have to wake up and realise, well, as I kind of have said before, and Steve will probably agree with me, that we are spiritual beings experiencing life in physical form. End all. Yep. No borders, no colour skin differences, no countries. That's just what we are. That's pretty much exactly it. Okay. Sorry, go ahead. You asked something about the how I got here part that I didn't cover. When I was in the military, I worked at a place called Redstone Arsenal. That's where they tune the moon boosters, build guidance systems, and a bunch of other things, and experiment and whatnot. Pretty nice scientific place. While I was there, a friend of mine was a hacker, and I don't think anybody knew that he was, but he was pretty darn good. He got in and fiddled with my security clearances, and all of a sudden I had better security clearance than about anybody on the post, including the commanding general, and I could go any place I wanted. So I started wandering around a bit, and some of the places there were really interesting. Now, I have had at that point quite a bit of classified information, location of nuclear defense in our country, capabilities, the targets, some of the targeting parameters, and nobody's ever gotten that information out of me, no matter how hard they tried, no matter who they were, no matter how close they got to me. That built a manner of trust, and part of the trust was tested recently, at first with my David Wilcock interview. If you listen to that, you'll find that there's a lot of things I say, nope, can't talk about that. And I do that same thing today. But the relevance of that is that the trust has been built between me and people who are in a position to be in charge of setting the country free on a military basis, on an intelligence basis, and this bled over into international intelligence as well. I have a pretty good working knowledge of things that most people don't have, and a lot of the stuff is classified. That's why I don't talk about it. I have a load of information right now dealing with our soon-to-be-had freedoms that I can't say anything about, because you have ongoing operations, and you have missions, and you have material and personnel moving around, and things being done that if I were to talk about them could very easily be interrupted. And I want this over with as soon as possible. And so do they. So I do two things. Out of respect for them and all their efforts, I keep my mouth shut. I keep my mouth shut on my terms simply because I understand that we got one shot at freedom, and I don't want to be the guy that screwed it up. Just that simple. So I don't talk about some things. I'm at liberty to generalize about a lot of stuff. So feel free to ask questions. If I run across something I can't say, I will definitely tell you that.
Okay.
Well, if you come across something that you can't talk about, we just say please, and we keep saying please. Hope you tell us the information.
Although I don't think he's going to tell us anything.
No.
All right, Steve.
Drake, there's another gentleman kind of out there on the scene as well, and we get emails from we have some of his emails and some information that kind of goes out on a general scale, and it's a Mr. Benjamin Fulford. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Benjamin. I'll take a guess and say you probably are. But when a lot of the information that Benjamin puts out, he refers to the white hats, and I'm not going to ask you what you think of Benjamin, because that will be kind of a stupid thing to do. But when he speaks about the white hats, do you believe that the white hats, or a group such as the white hats, are real and are kind of doing some of the things that Benjamin claims they are doing in relation to taking certain heads of certain corporations out of the game? I'm not saying killing people, but removing them from power.
Okay. Well, there's a little clarification needed here. If you're talking specifically about the white hats, the white hats are a group of a combination of I'll say high-ranking intelligence people, as well as directly connected to several of the high-ranking industrialists. Ben Fulford is referred to the Dragon Society, the White Dragon Society, which is also a separate but similar entity in some ways. Which are you want specific information about the White Hats?
Well, just to know that that he's not kind of telling a porky, and that what he's talking about is actually true. I mean, is there a group called the Dragon Society White Hats, and are they doing what they're doing, or is that just disinformation?
Well, okay, I'm going to qualify this, and I hope everybody pays attention to it. Everybody, and no matter who it is, gets information from varying sources, White Hats included. Dragon Society is a little different. The White Dragon Society, or the Dragon families, are not as per se involved in some of the things that the rest of us are. So what they're doing, yes, it's real. What the white hats are doing is just as real. This does not necessarily mean that we are always correct. I have made mistakes. When I have made them and found out about them, I have gone on right back on air again and said, hey, I said something last week that it was screwy. It was incorrect. It's fully wrong. Everybody needs to erase it and forget about it. We'll move on to something else. And I tell them what it is. Some of what everybody gets has a little bit of a spin or twist to it, and or can have things either added or subtracted from the information that causes a person, when they come across the information, to go in a direction, or can actually have a specific effect in another direction. So what would appear to be top-of-the-line information from any individual could be something that has been predicated to just simply cause a certain specific reaction rather than anything else. Sometimes there's absolute disinformation given out, but it's given through qualified channels. It's given through people that are trusted. And that gets then down to people such as myself or someone else, and I get verification because that same information is given to a couple of other points. And, okay, well, it looks like we're ready to pop the balloon and everything's going to happen, and here we go. All of a sudden, you get nothing. That big empty space of holding on to something that ain't there anymore. Ben has had this problem. I've had this problem. You name the individual that is on air or going public with outing or whistleblowing or whatever you want to call it in terms of what's going on, and you're going to find that in some places, every once in a while, they slip one in on you. Now, I try to verify through people I know I can absolutely trust who are only linked to the good guys as a sounding board. This has helped tremendously. And I have, at the same time, when I know certain things, I can say that, hey, everybody, get ready. You only got a few days. And be correct. I can say, as I've said in the past, and this is true of the past week, that we would see actions this week. Well, if you know how to look, and I quit doing people's homework for them and just handing stuff on a silver platter, I said, if you look, you can find it. If you don't look very well, you ain't going to find it. If somebody finds it, send me the link. We'll post it. We'll put it on the website. We'll make everybody that can get to it available to read it, look at it, chew on it, see what they think. But I don't. I try not to put any rumors out. And believe me, I do get a large load of rumors and this and that. And sometimes they're so totally ridiculous, you can almost hear somebody in the background somewhere laughing their butt off, thinking that it's funny. Look what I gave him. Oh, boy, is he going to look like an idiot. And it never comes out. And then they go, he figured it out. Spoiled my fun. I can't have a joke on a guy if the guy don't cooperate. So it's really difficult. It has been really difficult to find, first of all, the required trusted information channel and or individuals. Then even those, discerning a little bit as to what I know of a given situation and when it's really going to happen, all this sort of thing. This is why I don't give dates, because if I do, they will do something specifically to mess up that date so that I look like an idiot, so that I look like I'm lying, so I look like I'm spreading rumors. And you put freedom into a search engine on a computer, and you get several million different kinds of freedom saying all different kinds of things. The boogeyman's coming to get you. Everything from that to the angels are on their way. Take the pick.
We definitely, there's an awful lot of disinformation out there, Steve.
Yeah, okay, we spoke to Pastor Lindsay Williams a couple of weeks back, and we also spoke to him, I think, about 12 months back as well. And I mean, he was telling us, obviously, a similar kind of thing to what you're saying. He wouldn't give dates because he said he couldn't give dates. And it was all about, as Alan said earlier, windows of opportunity. But from what Pastor Williams was telling us, he would be he would know people in very high places as well. But the same scenario, I'm sure, at some point when he's getting a little bit too close to the bone and revealing too much information, I'm sure he's also slipped a little bit of disinformation just to kind of dilute what he's saying down a little bit. Just, I'm sure it does go on with everyone who's trying to expose the truth.
Does that not mean that the cabal, though, are playing games that they're still in control because they're playing this game?
But I mean, you know the way we always say, like in a war, two sides are fighting in a war, but there's kind of probably a shadow group in the background, and they're kind of controlling the whole thing. It's probably the same in the whole truth movement, if you like. That where there are certain elements of the truth movement, and there are certain elements of the people who are giving the information out, and I'm sure it does go on where they give the disinformation. But as Drake just said there, it's an intelligent thing to do to verify the information, and if you suspect that someone is slipping you something that's way off the scale, then you don't put it out there. And I think that's kind of an intelligent thing to do.
But then again, speaking to John Moore, we had John Moore, Drake, we had John Moore on the show a few weeks ago, and John did say that he has 4 contacts which don't know each other, and he's very, I don't know whether you know John, but he's very kind of straight down the line, good guy, ex-military, ex-homicide detective, intelligence analyst, he's now a radio host. And John was saying, and this kind of confirmed what you said as well when we talked to each other again a couple of weeks ago. John was saying that his information is that something's going to kick off on the 2nd or 3rd week of October. And when I spoke to you, you said probably 3rd or 4th week. And I spoke to a third person, and they said to me end of October, start of November. So based on, obviously we have you on the show, based on your 3rd and 4th week prediction of a timeline, again we're talking timelines of windows of opportunity, what do you think is going to kick off? And obviously I know you're located in America, but obviously we're in Ireland, and we're interested in Ireland and Europe. Can you give us your thoughts on what you think is going to happen and how that might affect Europe and Ireland?
Well, of course. I don't know if you're familiar with Neil Keenan and his actions, what he's done in terms of filing liens against the central banking system here in the United States, among other things. He's also garnered pretty much control of a majority of collateral accounts, trusts, things of this nature. People want two things done. First of all, those extraordinary monies or assets are and were intended for the humanitarian use of the populace of the planet. This means to improve people's lives. Great exorbitant, expensive things that couldn't normally be done could be with that type of an asset as a backer. Neil and I are pretty good friends, and the explanations of what is, what isn't, and what is to take place is fairly simple. You have an extraordinary amount of precious metal assets, specifically gold, but other things as well, that are not even metal, by the way. And these assets are used to offer credits to countries. In other words, you have to have something along the line of a governmental banking situation. Now, some institutions are not banks, but also are governmental financial institutions that are run similarly to a bank. These are the institutions that would be able to garner a, quote, credit from the collateral accounts in order to, say, improve all the roads, finish the sewer system so people can flush a toilet. It gets a little bit on the gross side when you consider that there are a lot of people who live in the woods. Some in thatched hutches, some in cabins, and some of them don't even have floors. Our our planet is not only wealthy enough but advanced enough that not necessarily to change somebody's life that doesn't want it changed, but those who might not like the idea of a dirt floor might be able to fix that. That the idea of a thatched hut doesn't fit what they would really like to experience. Now, then when you understand the extraordinary position of that, and the other factor in that all of this central banking system is run by a criminal cartel, and you can look at the actions they've taken internationally. Some of the higher forms of the central banking system have gone into countries and totally ruined their economies. Some of the requirements when you get involved with central banks are not something that anybody could live with. And yet when you control all the funds, and they're the only place you can get that particular amount from, you end up dealing with the devil, pretty much. So the ideology here is that the central banking system and the cabal's financial leg is going. This is coming very soon. It's not very far off, and it's not going to be something that is going to necessarily be pretty. All of the, quote, families involved with and having control over things that they have misused. When you have a mortgage on a place, you don't pull their mortgage because the guy don't vote for you, as an example. You don't put people out of their houses because you can legally steal their property from them. There is a lot of things going on in a lot of places that fall under those two basic types of categories. To go along so you can get along, sometimes if you have to eat, you don't have a choice. That's another ideology and something that is used by the cabal. If they can turn off your food supply, you got to come to them, period. If you turn off the water, same thing. There's a lot of things that the cabal, bad guys, bankers, and certain financiers, certain large corporations, have been doing for years that is going to be rectified the hard way. When a lien is placed on a central banking system, that central banking system, in this particular case, has agreed to what is called a call account. A call account is where, at any point, all of the base collateral borrowed, in terms of whatever it was, along with the interest, is due and payable now, lump sum, put it on the table kind of thing. All of these agreements were made in that manner for two reasons. One is that the people giving out the credits felt they could trust the people that were doing it. They found out they couldn't. Most of the cabal has never made a payment of any kind back to the collateral accounts. So, in effect, they borrowed money and decided to just keep it, refusing to pay it back. Now, this is payable in gold bullion. I want that to be made perfectly clear. The central banking system is going to be tasked with paying back not only the base collateral fund, but also the interest that runs anywhere from 2.5 to 4. I think it's 2.5 to 3.5% per annum. In some cases, they owe interest from before World War I.
But there's not enough money for them to get. I mean, we know we have a fiat currency, and it's coming to the finite end of that, mathematically, because of what's going on, and it's a debt-based system, as you know, and there's just not enough money in the world, and there's no way these countries are ever going to pay this back. So how does that work out?
Do what now?
How does that work? If the central bank, because banks technically don't have money, they have savers' money.
Well, one of the things everybody has to understand is that it is the cabal that is being targeted, not the individual citizen, not an individual country necessarily. Each country has banking interests and financial interests that are outside of the cabal's reach. They are not intimately tied to the central banking system. These are the entities that will continue to operate. Now, they may be closed for a few days, until things straighten out. However, the removal of the central banking system does not necessarily change the base of the idea of a debting or debted currency. If you make the currency into a certificate payable in gold or silver at a specific level, then what you've done is you have actually put the asset into the economy. You went from a debt instrument to an equity instrument. The only way that has been figured so far to equitably make that changeover, and this means you're going to have to change maybe a little bit of writing on the bills that are produced, would be to have a one-for-one exchange. Now, the funds are there to do that. The other part of this is that, as you've stated, this is a debt-oriented system. This is true. It's not necessarily the, quote, governments that indebted the system, but rather the financial institutions we're talking about eliminating. Now, by elimination, this does not necessarily mean it's going to be fully destroyed, but it's going to be zeroed out. And for a short period of time, non-operable. Now, you've already got a banking system in place, and you have people who know how to operate that particular system. If it's modified, and I'm talking about like a major engine overhaul modified, if it's modified, and you take some of the gobbledygook, garbage, hidden portions, you make those transparent, you remove the crooks, and the report has to be made public because it's supposedly a government entity in which it would become a government of, say, Ireland or the United States or whatever, and operate in that manner, then you have a banking system that you can work with. You know what you're getting into. You do not have hidden fees, etc. Okay. The other part is, there's one other part.
Okay.
That's called treasury. Each individual country has a treasury. The treasury should be operating the government in finance, period. You got a certain amount of equity you can use, just like a checkbook, you balance it. You can't, just because you got checks left at the end of the month does not mean that you can go ahead and write checks. So the ideology of a debtor system then can be eliminated if you place controls on the treasury and the banking system. So therefore, you straighten out the finances. The central banking systems of any country should be answerable directly to and controlled by the Treasury. Now, you get to the last part, which is the governments. If your government is a corporation, in our country, it's illegal for a corporation to have the same operational capabilities as governance. It's illegal, but they're doing it anyway. Therefore, that corporation also, and this is the cool part, is responsible for any and all of the debts that they have personally caused, accrued, or come about. In other words, the debt of the United States is, say, $20-some trillion, was the estimate I've heard, where the people's debt, what the actual population of the planet here on our little continent owes, is much less. It's more like a little under $1 trillion. And that can be paid without a problem. So, who pays the rest? The crooks go to jail forever. I mean, let's charge it off at $5 a day and stick them in the hole. I mean, they can make our license plates for us for a change. This is some of the base change. Now, societally has already been covered, and this is governmental, and the finance is right now up in the air. So, go from there.
Okay, so basically, what happens to usury interest? Because we know that there is a system Mike Montana talks about, and he's formulated called a mathematically perfected economy. And basically, to put it in a nutshell, it's the system we have now excluding interest or usury?
Well, I don't see a problem with that. I've studied some of the, and I'll say it, the Muslim or Islamic ideology of banking is where they loan the money, no interest.
Which is what Lincoln did with the greenbacks, and Kennedy wanted to do as well.
Okay, first of all, you have to understand that in our country, I've done a little study on this, we've got a combination of hidden wealth by the government, okay? And secondly, most of the large finances that have had to come about where you give a tax credit, where you give a certain amount of funding from a government entity to whatever they're making, these are direct investments by the government into a manufacturing or business or whatever. That generally in our country right now runs in the between 40 and 80%. Therefore, and this is going to screw everybody's mind up, they don't need interest, number one. Number two, you don't need taxes at that rate because they can more than live happily on the returns they get from that investment. The third part of this is those investments should be sold back. Some kind of a schedule set up where they buy back stock or whatever it is, or pay back that particular investment, be it a tax credit at the beginning, doesn't matter, so that business can end up totally free and clear. Just like you would with a mortgage. You pay on it for so many years. Now, the problem with mortgages and loans and things of this nature is that if an individual is looked upon as worthy of credit, it is not the entity they're playing with, bank, financial system, that creates the credit. The original creditor is the individual. Thus, you have the auspices, you have the containments and the changes found in a thing called NESARA. I have that listed on my website, AmericanNationalMilitia.com. It's up there. It gives you a history. Now, this started out as farm and ranch claims against the federal government. But they carried it to the nth degree because the courts decided to argue about it at the behest of the bankers. Obviously, the bankers wanted their money, and they said, no, you don't do it that way. So it got down to the understanding of a combination of the basis for law. Canaan is one portion, there are others. And when you really get into it, you'll find that most of the quote, credit is something that an individual had anyway. People have heard of the Vatican having claimed every square inch of the planet. Well, okay, that's all well and good, except that as a man of God with unalienable rights, I have certain rights that also mirror and go right along side by side with those supposed claims of the Vatican. The only entity that is allowed to own the surface of the planet is God, not the Vatican. Excuse me, whoops. You know, when you start understanding exactly what the origins of most of this stuff is all about, you have a combination of several things. You got the law, morality, actuality, individuals and institutions. Out of those, anything, and this is the simple rule, you divide by this every time you win. Anything that offers control over freedom of will. In other words, you choose yes or no, believe it or not, whatever. Anything that exercises control over freedom of will is not an entity that is of the good side, period. Agreed. Don't care what it is.
Agreed.
So, that's, you know, and when people understand that, then they understand, no, wait a minute. Do you mean I don't have to get down on my knees? Not if you don't want to. I'm sure that people have walked around, I've even seen a few dance around and cuss a lot when they hit their finger with a hammer. If you go, God, whatever, it continues to hurt. If you bless it, not only does the pain seem to lessen a little bit quicker, the bleeding stop and whatnot, you don't have a tendency to hit your finger anymore. Okay. Same thing where mom knows that her kid got hurt and the kid's on his bike 2 blocks away around the corner. She can't see him, but I felt that. She knows. Okay, so there's an entity out there of some sort. Yeah. And I don't care what somebody wants to put a handle on it. God's probably been called about every name there is anyway. So, I look at that in simple terms, that when man understands that there's a higher power than his individual ideas or beliefs or passions at the moment, then he will hopefully try to strive to be at least some kind of as good as that is. And this is, part and parcel of what I'm looking for in humanity. If we start adopting that, then color disappears. Ethnicity disappears. You don't care if somebody's Muslim. You got one guy with a crucifix with Jesus on it, and next to it you got a prayer rug with a Muslim on it. And they're worshiping right side by side and blessing each other in the process. That's where it's at. You want to believe different, that's cool.
Dan, that's where we need to take it. Drake, we have about 25 minutes left, so I think what we'll do is kind of have for the last 25 minutes, we'll have about a bit of a quick fire round on questions. Now, okay. So let's look at the current situation. We're talking about, the third or fourth week in October, probably early November, depending on timeline. So you think that the banking system is going to shut down, or they'll have a banking holiday for a period of time while this system gets switched around or put into place? Is that correct?
Yes, I know that's going to happen. I know the principles involved.
Okay, so what do people need to do in this time period?
Okay, it's real simple. Pick out a week, maybe 2 weeks worth of whatever you need to function during that period. A little cash, and by cash I'm talking about silver, gold coin, that sort of thing, if you can manage that. We have here high-level, high-content silver coinage from 64, 68, somewhere on in there, and before, that's sold as what's called junk silver. But it's recognizable. Everybody knows what it is. If you can get something of that nature, wherever you might be, that will assist you. I mean, figure out how much, if you need little bitty chunks of silver at whatever the market price is, if you have that, you can take that to the grocery if need be. When the currency's no good, and exchange it for groceries. You can take it to the gas station and say, well, this is this much weight, it's worth this much money, and I need this much petrol.
Yeah.
Bingo. And so the idea, now, one of the things everybody doesn't understand is the idea is not to crash the economies, period. The idea is not to cause problems. The idea is to have a smooth transition with the least interruptions as possible in everything. Okay?
Okay, well that makes sense. I think we've heard about this, about the silver and the gold, and if you can get your hands on it, that's fine. Unfortunately, probably the majority of the people and our listeners and in Ireland and Europe who are going through massive austerity at the moment are just lucky to have enough money to buy food. So buying silver and gold would probably be off the actual plate. But Steve,
yeah, I think that's what we have been saying, Drake, to people over the past couple of months that they should. We're not going to say stockpile food, but essentials. Always put enough essentials by, so you can at least survive for a couple of weeks. And if you can put a little bit more, maybe it may not be gold or silver, but it could be, say, tins of beans. It could be fresh bottled water. So in the event of something happening, that you could at least barter with your neighbour. For remember, you said earlier about one man has beans, another man has a goat. So at least we can barter as well.
Yeah, exactly. That concept of barter trade is where it's at. You might end up having to fix a guy's garage or something for a tank of gas. Who knows?
Okay, and so we need to, just for people to be prepared, because in the next few weeks we're going to see something like that. Okay, let's have a look at, let's just talk about 2012. Let's talk about what your perception is or what you've been told may or may not happen.
Well, I know what's going to happen. We're going to have a planetary alignment, which will include the whole of the solar system. And during that alignment is going to be the beginning of what people have talked about in terms of getting ready to ascend or go to a higher level and that sort of thing. It's not complicated. The crux of it is that is a passing or turning point. People don't understand the relationship, and here it is. The Mayan calendar looks at timings of placements of heavenly bodies, including ours. This is how they were able to project things into the future and be correct or accurate as to there's going to be a problem here or something good's happening over there kind of thing. These are on the basis of the great cycles. One cycle is based on the zodiac. It's 25,920 years in Gematria. Everybody uses the round number of 26,000 years. That's how often this would happen. So you go back 26,000 years and you're not going to find too much written material on what took place at that point. What I've been told is that you're going to feel this a combination of physically. You're going to have some minor events. You're not going to have the, quote, world-destructive things that everybody's been talking about. So, it's not something to be overtly worried with. It's more like, instead of an ending, more like a beginning. Okay?
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. We've kind of heard similar information to that. Like, obviously, a lot of people are kind of singing. I won't say singing from the same hymn sheet, but a lot of people are saying similar things. Me personally, when I kind of first start looking at what 2012 was about. And planet, I always pronounce this planet wrong. I always say Nibiru, and then someone will always correct me. But anyway, Nibiru. Anyway, when all the planets align, my perception was that it was going to be a holy war, fire and brimstone, and the whole planet was going to shift, and life as we know it would come to an end. And that kind of, it didn't sit well with me because, well, if it had been 50 years in the future, it wouldn't have bothered me. But because it's a couple of months' time, but now that we're hearing that it's kind of an ascension process, and maybe it is going to be a little bit of turmoil, but if it's all going to be good in the end, well, that's good enough for me anyway.
Well, what I've heard is that you've got the planetary alignment, which is a portion of the signification that the cycles are ending and beginning, which is both at the same time. Then you mentioned specific dates, and the problem with specific dates is similar to any timeline, yet this great cycle, it plugs along anyway. If you miss the boat, they say catch a train and you miss it, it could be a problem. Most people, it will be made sure that most people who desire to go along with the program that the cosmos is putting together will have that opportunity. And those who really don't want to, they also have the opportunity not to. Now, it's not just us who are going through this. It's the whole solar system. Every planet in our solar system is going to change. And those who do not wish to go along with that particular program will be offered to be taken elsewhere. No big deal. I mean, if you think about it, I think that's pretty nice. You at least get to make a decision about it. And, I've heard several timelines, all the way from the first thing I heard was that there's going to be an extraordinary change just after the first of the year. And I don't know what that is. It doesn't have to do with the planetary alignment as much as it does with visiting heavenly bodies. They weren't real specific as to which exactly one that was, so, take a guess until we hear more. Then I've heard the Ascension itself in fall of 2013. Then I hear that it's going to be in spring of 2014. Here you go again. There's some dates, and how much room is there? 6 months? Take your guess. You will feel things change. Some of the things that will change first are going to be physiological. You're going to feel a little out of balance, and a lot of people are feeling a quote, dizzy quotient. You're going to feel like you are more in tuned and aware of living things, trees, grass, animals, etc. The psychic ability of individuals will be raised slowly over a period of time. It's not going to be some kind of trick-or-treat, 4th of July firecracker excitement kind of deal. It's going to be gradual so everybody can handle it. Some people will go quicker than others. Some people will go slower than others. No big deal. The idea of it all is to get as many people ready as they can be, informed as they can be, So it's not a big shock to your system when it happens.
Okay. The question that I'd like to ask on that, Drake, is when you say, you'll have because we've heard this before where people will be asked, do you want to ascend or do you not want to ascend? Who's going to say this? Who are they? And when, are they just going to, could we be out shopping, or is there a particular time, or is it when we're asleep, or, and if we do ascend, does that mean that we all have to die and then our soul ascends? There seems to be some kind of confusion as to the word ascend and and what it means. Can you clarify that?
Yeah. Okay, basic matter right now is at a specific vibratory frequency. And that vibratory frequency is to change. It's going to increase. That means everything within existence physically is going to change. How much? That's a good question. I've heard several explanations on that, just like those timelines, all the way from, over here to over there. Pick something. The basic change is supposed to include us in total, not death, etc. You're supposed to be fully cognizant when these changes start happening, so you can make your decision without, what kind of decisions do you make when you're in dreamland? Do they fit with what's real? You look at it that way, and no, you're not going to be asleep when you're offered this opportunity. The beings that will offer this, and I'm going to use a specific term, it has primarily belief system connotations. I'm going to call them angels. And people have read a lot about certain contacts of these in all belief systems. There's reference to them. So you want to know what's going to be talking to you? I would say it's an angel. It's easier that way for common understanding, regular understanding. Some people will refer to them as extraterrestrials. Well, what is an angel? Where do they come from? These are questions that have never been addressed. So it could be that they're ETs. I don't know, but I'll call them angels because it's easier for me to accept. And the idea that an angel would be talking directly to everybody, maybe having a town meeting, who knows, and expressing the same similar things that I am talking about, will give everybody an idea that, maybe it's fairly real. Okay, now what do we do? And that will be explained. How do we prepare ourselves? That will be explained. They're not the thing I find is that the Creator has never left us out to twist in the wind in terms of wanting us to accomplish something. He or it is always there to help in whatever form it takes, be that angels, miracles, you name it. So I'll let that just ride to see what happens. Maybe we all get to walk on water. I don't know.
Okay, well, we know there's a predicted DNA change, and our DNA is going to be activated, and people will have, I'm not going to say powers, I'll just say that the DNA that they don't have active, when it does become active, they'll have more abilities, more natural abilities that they should have had a long time ago, because the DNA was switched off.
Do you know what I was just thinking there when you're speaking that? You know the way what we can hear and what we can see, like our visible spectrum is between, say, point A and point B, but there's infrared and gamma, and there's loads of other kind of things outside of our perspective that we cannot see, we cannot feel, we cannot touch. And I wonder if the vibration of the planet is speeding up, and all this, if dormant DNA is going to be activated or reactivated, I wonder, would that just will it be like someone lifting a veil, or like someone taking blinkers off a horse, whereby we'll be able to see more and experience more, and maybe that in itself will be kind of preparation for this ascension process? I don't know.
Good one, though. What do you think, Jack?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, I think you're right, Steve. I think it would probably be something like that. But then it begs the question, what's the story about disclosure? Is this going to be part and parcel of maybe disclosure will take place and then this kind of request of whether we want to ascend or not, because we'll be more accepting if the disclosure happens?
I would suggest yes. I don't know whether these things are going to have wings and arrive that way or appear to us in that manner, or if they're going to arrive in spaceships and get out and be a little different than human-looking, but not too far out. But I would suggest that if you're going to listen to somebody, you need to know them first, so disclosure should happen before we make the ascension.
Yeah.
This way, somebody that's trying to teach you something is not considered a total stranger and ignored. You have to get the human population at the same time, and this is a difficult deal, where they don't think that, some of the characters you've seen, like Klingons and Spock on Star Trek, is too totally weird. They're speaking English, or they're speaking our native language, whatever that may be, and they seem to be fairly intelligent, and they seem to be nice people. They got a sense of humor, too, man. He told me a joke was pretty, all these humanistic, civilized sorts of things come into play, and I personally feel that would be the probability of the manner of presentation. I'm sure it's going to be a onesie-twosie. All of a sudden you'll start seeing some craft, probably. Eventually you'll have meetings, and they probably will be private with certain officials so that they don't, freak out. Then it's already set in motion. We're going to start popping into the park over here, next Tuesday or something. And as these people become, in general, all of them, both ETs now, you got to remember, the ETs or angels are just as nervous as we are. They don't want to be trying to hand out popsicles to the kids and getting shot at. It don't work well that way. It might be hard on one of the kids.
Well, the question I was going to ask you, just based on that, is that we have been, we talked to a few of the guests who have some inside information, and we are well aware that one of the things the likes of Dr. Carol Roslin said is that Werner von Braun said that the last card the Cabal will use is the alien invasion. And I know, people will go, oh, we've heard this before and it's never happened and everything else. But if you think about it, I've said this before from a psychological point of view, to get people on your side, what you need to do, when the Cabal is ready, they can use the holographic technology they have, and they will have Buddha over in India, they'll have, Jesus for all the Catholic countries and everything else, and there'll be holograms and there'll be fake alien invasion, and we all have to be united, and then the aliens will be the bad guys, and we have to fight against them. Now, there's no reason why that still can't be on the cards, because that's all psychology to manipulate people. And there's a guy on the internet called Chris Thomas who's a healer, and he apparently said they tried to kill him. And he said, none of this will happen. He said, the Cabal, the fact that a UFO is going to come down and we all will board it and we'll be taken off and we'll be ascending. He said, that would be fantastic for the Cabal to open up the doors, kick you out into space and reduce the population to 500 million, which is what they want.
Yeah, well, everybody has their own idea about what's going to happen. The problem is that you need to get to the truth. Truth of the matter is that those aliens who would put us on the menu, so to speak, have been driven off. Several of their star systems have been cordoned off so that they can't leave. And there is other actions that are pending that will make it even more difficult for these things to ever influence or play games with us again. Now, the beneficial ETs or angels or whatever you want to call it that are left are specifically under instructions not to screw us up. And that means no ideas, no presentations, no nothing that will cause mass panic or hysteria or problems of that nature. So you're going to have a slow introduction. I've explained certain ways that this can be done in a manner that would be acceptable to just about everybody. And I'm going to see whether or not that flies. That's going before certain councils that make these decisions. Now, we have a limited amount of time, so in terms of the presentations necessary, and so this will give a basis that had not been considered before that would, I think, work extraordinarily well. If you were given the opportunity to shake hands with an ET, you and I probably would see whether or not, and do you shake hands with an ET or an angel? Do you even touch them? A lot of the times, this is not the way you do it. It would be well advised to understand that you might have a germ that will wipe out the entire civilization, and they may have one for you. So shaking hands may not be a good idea. Maybe just saying, "Hi, how are you?" There are introductions that I've understood, parameters, manners of conduct. The problem with everybody's understanding is that they don't understand that the whole solar system, I'm going to say this very clearly, is going through this ascension process from 3D to 4D to include anybody who wants to stay here and experience that. So forget being taken up, taken off, other than those who do decide that they don't want any part of it. Those who decide they don't want any part of it will be taken to a nice place to live where they don't have to worry about it. It'd be the same kind of world that you got right now. This one, however, to include all of its planets, are changing. Can't help but, I don't know that we will have some of the same physical conditions we have now. My understanding is that we will not. Whether that includes plastic dissolving because it's not something that would naturally go to the next dimension or whatever, or domain. I understand our health will improve dramatically. So these are some things to consider. Now, over the next year, we're going to have some very extraordinarily far-out things come out of the woodwork that have been around for a long time. I've been privileged to have security clearance and know some people that know about things that they have described, and actually I at one point had pictures of that nobody's supposed to know. And I mean absolutely nobody. These things are locked up in underground vaults. These are not things they let out. And yet I was sort of accidentally allowed to become aware of them. You want a healing machine? There's dozens. And I do mean that literally. They heal everything that you can think of about you. Some of the natural occurring ingredients that we have do the same. You got cancer problems, a little baking soda and water. You'd be amazed what that does for it. Just that simple. I mean, nothing complicated. I mean, so where do the rights of an individual to be free of influence stop, and the rights of somebody else to influence begin? I'd say it's a profit margin. Big Pharma has been feeding us junk food in terms of nasty medicines forever. Yeah. When they know all about the natural ones that don't even have any side effects and refuse to promote them. Yeah. Now, if they would take that and promote that company, whoever's got the kahunas to do that, whoever's got the guts to actually take the bull by the horns and make that change, they will be the #1 pharmaca company on the planet. And they make a whole lot of money that everybody else is making. So, these things have to be considered.
And you have to be put out there. Okay, just changing things a little bit. You obviously have other contacts, the likes of Cobra and Lady Dragon, and I think there's somebody else there in the background. What's the situation with these people? Who are they? And have you vetted them as to their background and the knowledge they're getting?
Well, I have very high respect for Lady Dragon, and I think that she does a marvelous job as to taking the bull by the horns and running with it. I've seen her in action in terms of accomplishing things, and I don't have any reservation about Lady Dragon. Cobra has put out some things that I know are questionable from my limited knowledge, and you always have to present specifically technology in an absolute manner that is absolutely correct. That does not mean you need to explain everything about it, but you have to do that. This includes histories, etc. And Cobra has been mistaken on several items that were of great import. So I kind of take Cobra with a grain of salt.
Okay. But no, that's interesting, because it's again, you have this kind of disinformation thing. You're going to get your trolls, and you have been along with a lot of other people, and even us. We were even told at one time we were disinformation agents. And we're part of the cabal and everything else, would you believe? And myself and Steve just laughed at that, because anybody who knows us knows that's so far from the truth is unbelievable.
Yeah, we're not part of any cabal. As the old Irish saying goes, Drake, and I can't use the word because we're going to be live, we haven't got a pot to pee in.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So, I don't know, alphabet agencies, CIA, CNA even, might, if they want to donate some money, we'll have a chat with them. But no, seriously, we just run OYM, and we're just trying to get the truth out there. We're trying to wake people up and give them something to think about, because everybody has an opinion on what's going on, and people like yourself, we do appreciate coming on the show and telling us what you know.
Can I just say, Drake mentioned earlier about you did say something about you don't believe in, you didn't kind of really believe in synchronicity or things happening for a reason, but you believe that the opportunities are there, and if you take them, then that's obviously the right thing to do. But since OYM kind of became OYM, both Alan and I, we met. Two different people from two different backgrounds. We kind of met in a certain way, and ever since then, Alan kind of does more of behind the scenes work than I do, but that's just the way it is. But everyone that Alan has contacted, I think this is show 120 now, is it?
Something like that, yeah.
But everyone that Alan has contacted, it's obviously contacted the people at the right time, but no one. All the big players in the truth movement, the likes of the one that springs to mind because I enjoyed him so much was Ted Gunderson, ex-head of the FBI. Everyone that Alan has just contacted and asked, even yourself, to come on. Everyone has come on. No one has said no. So obviously, we're doing the right thing at the right time.
Well, and David's been on, David Wilcock's been on, Anthony J. Hilder, Kerry Cassidy, all the big players, and people doing a lot of work to get the information out there. So, it's really great to, talk to people like yourself and just get your take and, the inside information. Thanks a lot for coming on the show. It's much appreciated. I hope we can still get you there for a roundup of your information. Steve, if you want to go through the bits and pieces with Drake there.
Yeah, Drake, we are starting to lose the broadband. I'm not sure if it's your end or if it's our end, but it is getting very, very choppy. Maybe we're being infiltrated. I don't know. But while we're still up and running, can you just give out your website there again? And if you have a book or a DVD or anything, any more information where people can find out.
I just have to be a prophet, so I'm not selling nothing, and I don't take donations. It's AmericanNationalMilitia.com.
Brilliant stuff. All right, Drake, just stay with us there for a minute, and we'll be back after this.
This is Open Your Mind Radio on OYMIreland.com, CNSRadio.me.com, and ITRadioNetwork.com.
And we're back, and that was the interview. That's a pre-record that we did with Drake on Friday.
Yes, you can probably tell at the end of it there, the broadband did kind of start to break up, and we just kind of had to cut the last couple of seconds off there because it was really, really bad, but at least Drake was able to give out his website anyway. And as he said himself, he's not a prophet, so he's not selling anything, and he doesn't take donations. It was actually a very good interview. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was a good interview, and we could have went on for more, so that's why we talked earlier on about maybe doing a part 2 and getting Drake back on and having a chat with him. So we'll just do just a couple of things on updating again what we mentioned at the start of the show. One World Chronicle will have the first issue out of their newspaper, and the Sovereign Independent has issue 6 out at the moment, just before the referendum. So we recommend that you guys if you can go out there and help and support the 2 newspapers there. They're looking for distributors across the country. So if you have a bit of time and you want to make a few quid, send an email to them at oneworldchronicle.com and sovereignindependent.ie, and just let them know that you want to be a distributor, and you can take it from there. And as I say, you can also make money from it as well. So it's a benefit to you there.
Yeah, they are selling. I think that you can get either a bundle of 15, 25, or 100 of the papers, and the prices are there. But I think the face value of the paper, I think the recommended retail price is €1. So they're not asking for any money back. They're saying once you buy it, their printing costs are covered. So then when you sell it, there's kind of a little incentive there. You'll pocket a couple of quid for yourself. You can do what you like with it. You can even donate it back into the cause. It's entirely up to yourself.
Definitely, yeah. Now, as I said, the Ben and Vane and everybody involved with the eviction during the week, well done with that. Great footage on the internet. It's brilliant when we get the audio and the video of what went on with the evictions. And
it is, because when you think about it, that was there live, and we could watch it absolutely 100% live from someone who didn't have a vested interest. Instead of reading about it or hearing about it on the 9 o'clock news, where they would put their spin on it, and probably you could imagine how that would have been played out on the 9 o'clock news. An angry mob. There would have been loads of little keywords in there, like an angry mob, and the police had to be there because there was a disturbance. When they were the one on the sheriff causing the disturbance, but it would have been played out completely different on the likes of RTA.
Oh, definitely, it'd be turned. You mean the impartial media?
The impartial media.
The impartial media. Okay, no worries at all. Well, I just happened to say to Steve, if we had the money, it'd be fantastic. One of the signs I'd love to see in a billboard, and this is just one idea off the top of the head, but you'd have the OYM logo, and then the TNS logo, and then the We the People logo, and then the Ben Gilroy's People for Economic Justice logo.
In no particular order.
In no particular order, and then just underneath saying, what was it? The new media. We are the new media.
We are the media.
Yeah, we are the media, or something like that. Anyway, I mean, that'd be great. Great advertising campaign. Well, just touching base on a couple of things. Next week we have a chap on called William Stewart. William Stewart is an author, and he talks a lot. I think he has 3 books out regarding what's going on globally and his predictions, or maybe not so predictions, but his research and what he feels might happen from the 2012 point of view. And obviously we have an interest. You have to keep an open mind. You heard us talking to Drake about the whole Ascension thing as well, and everybody has their opinion on it. During the week I was looking at a lady called Dolores Cannon, who's a hypnotherapist, and she's been doing it for 45 years, and she found a way to actually tap in to the subconscious, which she calls it, between our lives, because we have been reincarnated so many times. So the space in between each life, she's found a way to tap into it. And she said with the thousands of people she's hypnotized, they all say the same thing. They all come back with the same information from source. So if you have time, go to YouTube and type in Dolores Cannon and have a look at one of her talks about what she talks about, which kind of confirms the information that I read. There's 2 books I read called Journey of Souls and Destiny of Souls by a PhD chap in America who regressed people and found a way to tap into the superconscious, which was very interesting. And he what he talks about is what Dolores talks about, funny enough. So, more of that kind of cross-referencing is quite good, especially when they obviously, maybe they know each other, maybe they don't, I don't know. But it's quite interesting nonetheless, But that's really it. What we're going to do is, we have a few minutes left, so we got sent over a PR audio from David Icke's people, just to advertise the show in the Wembley Conference Centre. And David talks about, being open-minded and what's going on in the world at the moment and how he sees things going. So what we're going to do is we're going to play this audio file, and then we'll be saying goodbye to you at the end of that. But it's worthwhile having a quick listen to this. So have a listen, and then we'll just we'll have a chat after this.
Well, Wembley is a very special event for me, because it is at the end, or at least at this point on the road, that started nearly a quarter of a century ago, when you couldn't walk down any street in Britain without being laughed at and ridiculed, and comedians and the television and all the newspapers. And here we are, nearly 25 years later, at the Wembley Arena. And that is special to me, because I hope it does encourage people to speak their truth, and when they get ridicule and when they get resistance, to just keep speaking their truth, because if it has validity, eventually it will shown to be so, and people will look at it in a different light, and that is what is happening now. So Wembley is very special to me in the sense that it's a big marker of how far we've come. And I mean we, because there's lots of people around the world who are putting out information that is suppressed in the mainstream media. And we've come a long way from walking down a very lonely road to having incredible numbers of people now opening their minds to see that the world is not like they thought it was. Not only in the sense of the forces that are manipulating events politically, financially, in terms of war and all the rest of it, but the very reality they thought they were experiencing is nothing like they thought it was. We don't live in a solid world of limitation. That's the perception manipulation that keeps us in the box and keeps us in a sense of little me. We live in a world that is extraordinary, that is a virtual reality, which, because of its fluidity, means that we don't live in a limited world. We just think we do. And what Wembley is about, over 10 hours, which sounds a lot, but it will fly, because it is a massive tapestry of interconnected information which on the face of it does not connect. They're individual dots, aren't they? That doesn't connect to that, and him doesn't connect to her, and all the rest of it. But when you put it together, strand connecting to strand, there's a layer. Strand connecting to strand, there's another layer. Now that layer connects to the previous layer, and we're going to bring those layers with us into the next layer and the next layer, and eventually it's, whoa! So that's what is happening in the world. So that's the nature of reality. So that's why the world is as it is. This is what Wembley's about, and this is why I speak for so long, using something like 1,500 images and illustrations. It's because there is a massive world to be uncovered, to be described, and to be exposed that is so different to the one we think we're living in. It is staggering. And if people are coming to Wembley or thinking of it with a closed mind, stay at home. Stay at home. Because we're going to look at the world in a completely different way. And when you flip it, when you do that, suddenly a world that seems incomprehensible, that seems bewildering, that seems crazy. Why do they do it like that? It'd be much better this way. Why do they do it like that when they know that's going to happen? All these questions are answered when you know, A, the nature of reality itself, B, the forces that are manipulating humanity into a Orwellian global state, and C, when you realize the techniques they're using to take us there. Suddenly, the world, in all its aspects, suddenly makes sense. And that's what Wembley is about. But it's about one other thing, too. It's about bringing people together I won't say like mind, although there'll be many like that, but of open mind. I was speaking in Sheffield once, and someone put their head behind the curtain before I started, and they saw these people of everything from 15 to 80, black, white, sky blue, pink, different, clearly financial backgrounds, family backgrounds, and they said to me, what on earth connects all these people? And I said, an open mind. Because an open mind allows your perception to expand. A closed mind means it's running on the spot for the rest of your life. Is that sensible? No. So these people come along to my events with an open mind. And when the mind is open, it can flow in different directions that closed minds can't. And when you bring that energy together, it creates a fantastic energy field. And the longer the day goes on, the more amazing it is. And at the end, you could walk out, on air almost, on energy for sure, because of the connection between people of that open-mindedness generating the energy of open-mindedness, and it's just extraordinary. And another point about Wembley is to get large numbers of people together to say to the mainstream, hey, something's happening here, something's changing. Why are all these people coming together to listen for 10 hours to this madman? Why are they doing that? What is happening? Maybe, just maybe, a few mainstream journalists might flick their eyes open, flick their minds open, if only briefly, and ask those questions. Because they have children and grandchildren too that have to live in the world that I'm exposing if we don't address this and address this urgently. And this is for everybody. I don't care what your colour is. I don't care what your religion is, or no religion, preferably I say. I don't care what your background is. This is a subject that is the ultimate subject, really, or subjects connected, because it affects the lives and the futures of every man, woman and child on this planet. There's information we desperately need to know, and people in general desperately need to know, because not knowing it is leading us down a very dark and dangerous road in terms of freedom, in terms of financial security and all these things. People say knowledge is power, and it is, but you have to gain that knowledge first. You have to look at that knowledge first. But even then, it's not power. It's potential power. Knowledge is not power. The use of knowledge is power. And that's what Wembley's about also. Not just this is the problem, but what the heck do we do about it? Because the answer to that is we can do plenty. But that's very deep too in many ways, and we need to understand the nature of reality to fully understand how we address this. It's going to be an amazing day, and I hope and I trust that people who come will never be the same again.
So there you go. That's a message from David regarding his show in Wembley. Sounds like it's going to be fantastic.
Have you got the tickets?
Well, that's a different story altogether. But
yeah.
It will be actually broadcast on the internet as well, live. It's going to be streamed live. So if you can't make it over there, you should be able to go to his website and watch it streamed live. Now, I don't know whether there's a fee for that, but I pop over to davidicke.com and have a look at the website. I'm sure they'll have details regarding the stream. So just to let you know that you will be able to watch it live on a stream on the website, apparently. So check it out there. Now, the other thing that we're going to just mention quickly is that we will be maybe trying a new player on our website next week. We're going to give it a go during the week and see how it goes. Steve, you got a message there?
Yeah, well, I just want to say about the player. We are conscious that there are still people listening on the Ustream player, and we do know that if you're not kind of tech savvy, you will get ads that come in every so often. So we're going to be trying something else next week. And we have a message in from Mick at Liffey Sound FM. That is an FM radio station. They broadcast 96.4 FM on the FM dial from Lucan in West County Dublin. They're also liffeysoundfm.ie. And Mick is going to be interviewing Ben Gilroy tomorrow night at 9 p.m. So that's 9 p.m. tomorrow night, Liffey Sound FM or liffeysoundfm.ie. Yeah, that should be quite interesting.
Brilliant. Okay, so we'll just say goodnight. I don't know what's Finn doing tonight?
I've communicated with Vincent, and I think it's a secret. It's a well-guarded secret. He hasn't said who he's on tonight, so it'll be Vin and guest.
I know Ning are going to be shutting down for a maintenance overnight, so Vin will probably tell people about that anyway. Okay, take care of yourself. We'll catch you next week. From Alan James, stay safe. We'll talk soon.
Okay, and from Stephen George, we'll do it all again in 7 days. Take care. Good night. God bless.